All right, so if we could start with your full name, please.
Adolfo Celaya,
And can you spell that?
Adolfo, first name. The second name is Celaya, Celay.
Great.
My nickname is Harpo, like Harpo, like Harpo Marx.
And how did you get that nickname?
Well, when I was about 7 years old, I guess every summer after school was out, my dad used to cut my hair completely off, bald, every summer for 2 years. And that about the third summer, I was about 9, I guess, and I wouldn't let him cut my hair anymore because at that time I was starting to like the opposite sex or something like that. So I went for about 6 or 8 months without having to get a haircut. And my hair was very, very long and stuff. So one day we were playing in front of the theater when the Marx Brothers were having a show there. They had a billboard and everything up on top and there was a bunch of kids there playing in front of it, and I happened to stand right next to Harpo Marx by any chance, and one guy said, "Look, if his hair doesn't look like Harpo Marx, except his hair is black," he said, "not like and it stayed that way I was about 10, so it's been there for about 80 years, I guess.
So, where and when were you born?
I was born here in Florence, 1927, May 16th.
16. So how old does that make you today?
91.
And which branch of the armed service did you join?
Navy.
And what was your rate in the Navy?
Fireman, second class.
And which ships did you serve on?
Indianapolis.
And what years did you serve from and until?
It was December 1944 to when it went down, when it sunk.
And that was July 30th, 1945?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'd like to talk a little bit about your childhood and growing up. Who were your parents?
My parent was Adolfo Celaya. I was a junior. My mother was Paro Encinas. Encinas that was a pretty good sized family here at that time. Most of them have gone away now and gone to different other cities and stuff like that. So there are very few Encinas in here.
And what did your parents do for a living? What did your father do?
Well, my father was mostly, when he was small, he was a cowboy. My grandfather was in cattle business. They were pretty big into cattle business. And then when my father grew up and everything, my grandfather had completely, it was during the Depression, they kind of lost everything. So my dad just went to kind of work at different things, construction and stuff like that. So
wherever he could find work.
Yeah.
And did you have any brothers and sisters?
I had one brother and 2 sisters.
Okay. And did your mother work at all, or did she?
No, my mother was mostly a homebody at the time. After she left here, she worked a lot up in San Jose area. She worked in the canneries quite a bit. But that was way after when she left. She left, and I was about 12 years old at the time when she left Florence, and we stayed with my dad.
Did your parents separate?
Yeah.
Okay. And did your parents, were they born in the United States, or did they?
Oh yeah, no, they were born here.
Okay. So which generation American are you? How long has your family been here for?
I guess we would say fourth generation, third or fourth generation. I don't know. My great grandmother is buried here in Florence in 1886, something like that.
So you guys have pretty deep roots here.
Yeah. Well, we were all of us have been born here in Florence.
And were you and your siblings close growing up?
Yes, growing up we were. We were all, because we stayed together most of the time. We didn't separate until I was probably about 12, 14 years old. And then my smallest brother and sister, they left and went with my mother in San Jose. My sister and I stayed here with my dad in Tucson, so we were.
And what type of things did you do for fun?
Mostly play basketball, I guess, and any kind of sports that we had at that time was softball, baseball was the bigger thing every. But I used to have a horse at the time. I used to ride my little horse, and my biggest thing was swimming in the canal up here. They had a canal, running quite a bit during the summer, and that was my biggest thing, was going to the canal all the time, swimming.
And can you talk about growing up during the Great Depression? Did you guys?
Well, during I picked a lot of cotton with my mother at that time. When I guess I started picking cotton when I was 7 years old, and I picked cotton till I was about 12.
And the money that you earned from that would go towards the.
Well,
the
it went to my folks. I mean, I never saw any of it. So
Did you have any other jobs that you would do besides?
I did some work as a dishwasher at around 12 or something like that, but nothing until I went to Tucson. Then in Tucson, I had a few other jobs there in Tucson that I did. But here in Florence, the only thing I had was picking cotton.
So
And we did chop cotton also during the summer. We chopped cotton. They call it chop.
So you guys eventually moved to Tucson?
Well, we lived up there when I guess it was about 1940, 41, something like that. When the wars broke out, my dad, they needed some construction workers up in Tucson, so my dad went down there to work in construction.
That was after your mother
Yeah.
had moved to San Jose.
Oh yeah, my mother had already left for San Jose.
Okay. So you had to transfer schools.
I went to the 8th grade.
So you quit school after the 8th grade.
In the 8th grade, yeah, that's as high as I went.
And why did you stop?
Well, for one of the things, I couldn't afford to go to school at that time. I mean, it was hard for me to go to school anyway, especially when we moved to Tucson. I didn't have much of a way to go to school. You had to buy your own books. You had to buy everything else at that time. Yeah. So I mostly lived by myself there in Tucson. So when I was 15, 16, I just quit school. I just didn't go anymore.
So where were you living?
I was living there in Tucson. I lived with my dad sometimes and with my aunts or wherever I could in those days, yeah.
Okay. So you weren't going to school. Were you working? Were you still picking cotton at that time?
No. When I was here, well, I did go to school here when I was picking cotton, but I picked cotton here in Florence when I was
But
small.
when you went to Tucson, what were you doing?
In Tucson, I worked as a dishwasher. I worked as a grocery produce delivery and in the service station and stuff like that. But any little thing that I could do, I'd get it.
And do you remember how much you were getting paid at that time?
Probably about 50 cents an hour or something like that. It wasn't much.
this was in 1941. You said you moved.
Well, in 1941, 42, up to 43, I guess.
So you're about 14,
Yeah.
15 years old. So going back to 1941, December 7th. Do you remember where you were when Pearl Harbor was attacked?
I think I was living here in Florence.
Okay.
I think I was here in Florence. I can't remember exactly where I was at, but I remember when it happened, but it didn't faze me too much at that time. I mean, I didn't think too much about it.
You were a young
Yeah.
kid. You were 14,
Yeah.
14.
No, I was. Let me see. Born in 27, that made me 13. I guess I was 12, 13, I guess at the time, but I remember.
Yeah. So you probably didn't
Yeah.
know where Pearl Harbor was.
Yeah. No, and schooling was not my big thing. I never liked schooling, except to play sports, but school was not my thing.
So did you, now that the country was at war, did you have any idea that 3 years later you'd be going to war yourself?
No. I had never thought about it. I remember seeing a lot of the young people getting out of high school and joining the Navy, Air Force, and taking off from the little town of Florence. So I remember them going out, and when they came back on leave or something like that, I remember seeing them over here when they came back, so. But I never thought I'd be. In fact, they had a. You want to show them the sign? This was the sign that put me into the service. I used to go through the post office, and they had big signs up there. This is just a little sign that one of the guys gave me up here, but they had real big signs up there, but like that.
You want to hold that up?
And this is what they showed, join the Navy and see the world and stuff like that, And
See the world or see the girls?
So that's what I saw, the girls. I mean, I didn't see the flag or the planes or anything. The girls were the ones that I joined the Navy on, So
that's what convinced you to sign up.
Yeah, that was one of my biggest things. The war was not the thing for me to go fight the war. I didn't even think I was going to get into it. Never did I ever realize that.
So did you get to see the world like you thought you would?
Nope, never did.
And you mentioned you joined in December of 44.
No, I joined it was in August of 44.
Okay.
Then I went to boot camp and everything, and after boot camp, then I went on board the ship, the USS Indianapolis.
Okay. So tell me, where did you go for your basic training?
In San Diego.
Okay. And what did you experience there?
Well, there was. That's when I started experiencing a lot of prejudice and stuff there, and basic training. You had it, and I had it all through the Navy. I never got away from it. I mean, it was always a. I never thought I'd have it that bad in the ship, but the ship was very, very prejudiced.
During basic training, what type of prejudice did you experience?
Well, the people that were running it, a lot of them were from the South, like Texas and those areas. So you'd have a troop commander. So any jobs that were not taken by say a white person, they would give it down to anybody that had Hispanic blood on him. You know, they would take those kind of jobs, so they would give them to him. So that's the way you would know what was happening. And in those days, you couldn't do anything about it. There wasn't. If you tried to do anything, it just got worse. So most of the Hispanic people would just keep quiet instead of saying something, because it got worse for them.
So were there other Hispanic gentlemen in your basic training camp that
Oh
you
yeah,
guys
oh yeah.
kind of stick together?
Oh, we were outnumbered by quite a bit, so it was best not to fight back, because it was a no-win place. I mean, you know, there was a.
Understand. And you were trained as a fireman.
Yes. Mm.
Can you elaborate a little bit about?
Well, I don't know how I got in to be a fireman, but that's where they put me, so, to fireman school. So I did the best I could when I was in there. I knew nothing about it, and school was not my thing. I was still an 8th grade student, and every time they had they started giving jobs out, they say, who has a college degree, who has high school. So I was always at the bottom part because I had an 8th grade. There was a few guys in there that had an 8th grade education. I was one of them.
Now, when you stepped foot on the Indianapolis, was that the first time you stepped foot on a ship?
Yes.
Because growing up in Florence and Tucson, I imagine there wasn't.
Well, the funny part is that when I went from Shoemaker, which is a little ways out of San Francisco, and they took us down there at night, which is about 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and it was very foggy. I show, but you didn't see the ship at all. I didn't see it, and they took us up on top at night. And I went, and they put us in there, and gave us a hammock where to sleep and stuff. And the next morning, when I got up and I went outside and looked at that thing, my God, I wanted to get the hell out of there right away. It was big.
It's a bit overwhelming for you.
Oh my God, yes.
And there's about 1,200 men on board.
Yeah.
So when did you guys set sail?
Sometime before New Year's. I think it must have been a day after Christmas, because I remember spending Christmas with my mother. And right after that, I think we sailed, and we ended up in San Diego because they were giving overnight passes to the people that didn't have the liberty at San Francisco. On Christmas, they had it on New Year's up in San Diego. So I wasn't able to go out on New Year's because I had taken my pass in San Jose at the time, you know. So I stayed on board in 45 New Year's at there in San Diego. We sailed right after that.
And just rewinding a little bit, when you joined the Navy, did you have any words with your father? Did you speak with him about making that decision at all, or?
Yeah, well, my father had a sign for me.
Okay.
So my dad didn't want to sign for me, and so I asked him if he would sign for me for my birthday, if he'd give me that present for my birthday. So he went down and signed for me to join the Navy there at 17. So that's when I.
And do you remember the last time that you saw him before you shipped out?
Well, I saw him There in Tucson there when the last time.
So before you
I-
went to basic training,
Yeah,
that was the last time.
my mother, I never kept in touch hardly with her at all. I mean, so it was.
So were you pretty close with your father?
Well, my father I was. I mean, but I wasn't that close to my mother. I got close to my mother in later years because I took care of her for about 15 years after when she got and be a how do you say in their 80s, you know. So I took care of her.
So did your father have any well wishes for you before you left for?
I don't
basic
remember. I can't remember. We were close, but we were not the how do you say the Kiss family or anything like that. Normally shake hands or something like that. You know, not
I understand. Okay. So after you guys shipped out, once you guys were leaving the U.S., where did you head? Did you go to Pearl Harbor?
Yes. We went to Pearl Harbor. From there, we went to Iwo That was our first battle that we had. Was
Bombarding Iwo Jima.
Iwo Jima.
Can you talk a little bit about that experience?
Well, first the thing that I when I was there, we had gone to Japan in one of the aircraft carrier. How do you say that they sent a bunch of carriers and destroyers and stuff. So a task force is sent to. So I went down with the task force and stuff, and they bombed Tokyo or something like that, and then they came back, and that's when we went into Iwo Jima to when they were bombarding Iwo Jima and stuff like that too.
Was this before the Marines
Yeah.
landed on the island?
Mm-hmm. So we were about 5 miles off the island when the Marines went in there and landed. So we were able to see everything that was happening there.
So you could see the transport
Yeah.
bringing the Marines
Yeah.
in, and
We were right next to the transport and stuff like that there. So we didn't see them when they got blown up and anything, but we could hear through the loudspeakers. I mean, what was happening? They were giving him a pretty bad shellacking there at the. So they.
So were you always in the engine room, or did you have another assignment?
No, well, I was there. No, I was in the fire room, way down below. You know, where the firemen were. But you had 4 hours on and 4 hours off. So sometimes you were up on top deck, and you could see some of this where I saw where the Marines were going down with their landing barge. I could see them going into the Iwo Jima there because my duty, I wasn't supposed to be down in the engine room until later on, so I could go up and take a look. So if I wasn't on duty, I'd have to be down at because usually if you were on, they'd be in battle stations where you would be on 4 on 4 off, you know, so you wouldn't. Yeah.
And this was all a brand new experience for
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They'd put me down and put a 45 on me and tell me that I'd have to, and I never have used the 45 or nothing. They just put it on me, and if you see something that's not right, you just start shooting. Oh, what the hell?
But you had never fired a gun before. Was that to keep? That was to you were guarding the engine room, or?
No, I was guarding how do you say hatch? You know where they open up.
Yep.
You close that hatch, and you're not supposed to open it because if the ship hits you, you're supposed to have that hatch closed. You know.
To prevent.
So nobody's supposed to be opening it. So if somebody comes, you're supposed to. But I don't know. I don't think I could shoot anybody. Not one of my own people.
No. So how long did you guys spend bombarding Iwo Jima?
On and off, I'd say about 25 days, something like that. We'd be on there for about maybe 7 or 8 days at a time, and then we take off and go into something else, and then we come back and start bombarding again. But they bombarded the ship, the Iwo Jima, pretty well. They never thought they had those men in there, so they kind of Japanese kind of surprised the United States pretty well. They didn't expect that.
They thought they were going to get in and get out pretty quick.
Well, we had 100 Marines on our ship that belonged to the ship as a flagship, to Admiral Spruance. So they were still on there when they never got off of there. They were always there waiting for Spruance to get on. And they lost a lot of money there because they bet having money with sailors about that they were going to take Iwo Jima in 72 hours. And when you're out there, you bet money because you don't have any place to put it. So the sailors bet the Marines everything they had. So they cleaned the Marines out that we had on there because it took, I don't know, 2 weeks or something like that. It took a long time, yeah.
Now I understand that you were an eyewitness to a pretty significant piece of history on Iwo Jima. Is that correct?
Oh well, I saw the flag go up, and I told him that I was. At one time, I think I told him that I was the youngest on the ship that saw the flag go up in Iwo Jima. Somebody told me, well, no, that somebody else was younger, but the guys had never been on the ship when I was in there at 17. I was already fighting where the other guys hadn't been on there at all. So.
And at the time, you couldn't have known that it would have been such a famous image.
No. I had Pena, which was my friend. He had big binoculars because his watch was right on the front of the ship there, up on top. And he had those big binoculars, on top of it. And he came over and pulled me over and said, come on over to see the flag go up. I said, what do I want to see the flag go up like that for? No, come on. So he took me down there and I put the binoculars on. And after I saw it going out, I turned around and threw it at him. I said, big deal. I told him to throw the binoculars at him. So I became the big deal guy to him. Every time I go down and see Penny, I say, here comes the big deal guy. So for years, I go down to Tucson to see him. But I became the big deal guy for him.
And that did turn out to be a pretty big deal.
Oh, 2 weeks or something like that, they came out with a big flag and everything on there. The biggest picture that I ever seen, and that really became part of the war. They pushed it all the way down to, they still pushing it.
Yeah.
I go to parades there in Zacatone. Every year they have a Iwo Jima parade because one of their Indians that was on there, which was Ira Hayes, was supposed to have been on one of
the flag raising.
So they have a Ira Hayes parade. We don't have a T-shirt. We don't have a T-shirt Ira Hayes parade on us. That because we go to it every year and participate in the parade that they have, and they make a big thing out of it, raising the flag of Iwo Jima, and before Santos Pena died, I got him one time. I told him, I said, Santos, they invited me to a parade. Why don't you go with me to go? And he turned around and said, ha, that damn Indian all he did was raise the flag, and we went down there and spent 5 days in the water, and they don't even mention my name. So he wouldn't go to the parade. He wouldn't. So that was a cap that they gave us.
Oh yeah.
And so the picture of it is the mill also something like that. See?
Yeah, it turned out to be a Pulitzer Prize winning image.
Oh my God, they did a big thing on that.
And the Marine Memorial in Washington D.C. is
Yeah.
modeled after that. So.
But that's not the flag that I saw go up.
You saw the first one?
Yeah, I saw the first one. Yeah. Because the second one I didn't see.
But that didn't symbolize the end of the fighting on Iwo Jima. That was only that was in the early days of the fighting there.
Yeah.
So after you guys left Iwo Jima, where did you guys head next?
Went on to Okinawa.
Okay. And you guys were bombarding Okinawa.
Yeah.
And I understand there was a lot of fighter planes in the air.
Oh, they had everything going around. We had probably 30, 40 ships all around there. I don't understand how they picked us to come over and hit us. You know, they had so many ships in there, but they did come in and hit us.
Yeah, I understand your ship shot down six enemy fighters.
I know they said, I mean, but I was down below at the time, so I couldn't see them.
Right, but I also understand that a bomb had hit your ship. Is that correct?
No, a suicide plane.
So the actual plane hit the ship.
Yeah.
And you guys lost 9 men on on that event. Did you see any of the wreckage or the remnants from that?
Well, I saw the plane come in.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Hughes and I had just gotten out of. They had a mast, so the mast was in the back of the ship, and we were walking towards the front, you know. And Mike looked up and saw the plane coming in. I said, "That's not one of ours. That's not one of ours." And he saw it come right in and hit us on the opposite side of where Mike and I were sitting. If he'd have been on our side, we wouldn't be around here telling the story, because it
had to have been a pretty scary event.
Yeah, it was. We both ran down towards the bottom. I don't know why we ran down to the bottom. I mean, we should stayed up on top, but that's where we ran down. And that's about when it hit. And then but they say it had a bomb that went down and exploded from the bottom up. I don't understand how they do that, but I guess they could time the bomb that explodes from the bottom.
Yeah, so it didn't explode on impact. It was a timed detonation.
Yeah.
But the ship didn't sink.
No.
It withstood the.
Yeah, they closed it up pretty good. That's where I was supposed to be with it, but they had Marines guarding that right away in there.
So that would have been one of the hatches.
Yeah.
Because if that hatch had opened, more water would flood.
Yeah, they would.
So after that incident, you guys had to go and get repairs?
Yes, they put us into what they call Death Valley or something. They put us where all the ships that had been hit. They put them into this little area where they were trying to repair them or something like that too. And then the Japanese planes would come in at night, you know, and just lower down and hit anything they could hit, you know.
They were still attacking?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Dropping bombs or torpedoes or both?
Well, suicide planes, they'd come down and they used to camouflage the whole place where all the ships were. But they'd come down and just go right down and whatever they hit, they'd go ahead and. We were lucky they never hit us again, but
Yeah.
they come right down.
And when you guys weren't in combat, and you guys weren't bombarding any of the islands, what was daily life like for you aboard the Indianapolis?
Yeah, I guess I don't know. Trying to play a few cards, I guess, something like that, or working down at the bottom of at the boilers and stuff like that. I never thought of it. What I did during those times, I guess. I know I did a lot of fighting with them guys calling me this or that, so that.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
the prejudice that you said
Yeah.
you were experiencing.
Oh, it was on there all the time.
And you became, you said Santos Peña, he was your best friend on board?
Oh yeah, Santos and well, there's Mike Kiwis also, which was there, but he happened to get off of there, and when we were coming down to San Francisco to get repairs, he got off because he was an ex boxer, and so he got off in Guam to be head of the recreation department there for Guam, there in one of the headquarters that they had there. So he stayed there in Guam.
So what drew you and Mr. Peña close together? Why did you guys?
Well, we were both from Tucson. He met there, and we just got friendly. And he came down when we were in San Francisco. He came down. He met my mother and everybody there in San Jose, because San Jose was very close to San Francisco. So they came down to a meal there. Two or three of the Hispanic sailors that were there, and they came down to San Jose and they enjoyed it there. So, but we stayed friends until he passed away. He became the godfather of my son. So, but he never forgot the big deal guy. I mean. So he was. We stayed together pretty close for a long time.
Now, while you guys are over in the Pacific, you guys are bombing these islands, and you're getting attacked yourselves. You joined the Navy to see the world, not to get shot at.
That's what I said when I first went into Iwo Jima, and that's the first time I got into combat, and they were suicide planes all over. There were more suicide planes in Iwo Jima than any place else, and shooting and everything all around it. And I remember running, and I said, this wasn't what I joined the Navy for. I was supposed to be someplace else.
Did you rethink your decision at that point?
Yeah, it was a funny thing. 17 and a half years old, and I'm right in the middle of these guys' suicide planes and everything all around me, and I instead of being scared, I was laughing. I mean,
nothing you can do.
Yeah.
So after you guys sustained the kamikaze attack, where did you guys go for repairs? You said it was
San Francisco.
Okay.
Morale, and it was there for about, I guess, 2 months, something like that. But we came down. It was very slow for us coming down back from up there to San Francisco, because we were coming down, I think it was 10 or 12 knots, very slow. Mm-hmm. We were only coming down on one engine or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but it took them a long time to. But they had workers going 24 hours a day there on the ship, they had.
And then after you guys got all patched up and ready to set sail again, is that when they loaded those boxes on the?
Yes, I wasn't aboard ship when they loaded the boxes. By the time I got there, I had liberty to go, and then they were ready to take off. And as soon as all the sailors that came back from being given liberty overnight to come back on the ship, as soon as they got on, they took off. But as soon as I walked into the back on the hangars where they had the recovery planes, they had the two big boxes on there, and I saw the two big boxes with the Marines and everybody guarding them. They had Marines on each end, and I didn't know what it was, but I said, "What? I'm ready."
And those boxes were just sitting right on the deck.
No, yeah, they stayed on top of the.
How big were they?
Oh, they were long, probably about 10 to 12 feet long. Yeah, they were long, and square, about 4 by 4.
How many Marines were guarding them?
They had 4 Marines, 2 on each end,
And nobody obviously knew what was inside.
They all had guesses, but none of them even came close.
What did you think it was?
I don't. I remember I said something like whiskey for the general or something like that. I can't remember, but they did have a pool going to see what it was, but they never found out. For whatever money they had, I guess it's still in there. I had a deal where I had a lady that called me and said that they came down here to interview us, and she said she called me the day that they found the ship, and the first thing that she asked me, says, Do you remember anything about when you first saw the ship? And I said, yes. I said, what was it you thought about? I said, well, the first thing I thought, I said, I had $47.40 in my locker, I said. And she started laughing, and she said she went to the station and went over and told everybody was laughing like that. So there was a gentleman from the high schools that used to take me down here every so often to give talks to the kids up there. So a while back, I went down to see him, and he asked me about it, and I told him the story about the lady calling me and telling me that they had found the ship and all that, and what I had told him. So he started laughing too, laughed like mad. So we were getting ready to leave, and he comes out and he gives me this.
You want to hold that up?
And he gives me this. He said, "This," because I told him I told him a story about the $40.47. So he made me out a check. He says, "I'm not gonna give you an interest in it because it cost me a fortune." He said, and he made the date that 5/17/2018. He said, so, and that's his name, Dan Dickerson. He said, but he got a big kick out of it too. He was really into the.
So once you got back on board ship and you guys were getting ready to set sail, did you notice any unusual sense of urgency to get back out?
No, well, I know the only thing that I noticed, because in order to have the ship going, they had to have all engines and all the fire rooms going, and I remember we had the whole four fire rooms. They had all of them going, so you had to have all four of them to be at the speed that ship was going. So they put it at top speed. So you had 4 on and 4 off all the way down to Guam and
You guys were headed to Tinian, correct?
yeah, Tinian, yeah.
And you guys set a speed record.
Well, that was like I said, we were on 4 on and 4 off. So it was a little exhausting doing it, but they were going at top speed. They said they didn't want any submarines or something to cap. So somebody must have thought a little something about those boxes being on there, but nobody even came close to it.
You're not putting 2 and 2 together
Yeah.
like that. So do you know why your ship was chosen?
They say that because it was at that time ready, and it was one of the fastest ships they had. But it was just one of those things that it happened to be ready, and
Just by chance.
they could have picked any other ship, I guess.
Well,
I always thought, why come they didn't flow it down there? I mean, why take a ship to take them? I don't know.
yeah, it's a good thought as well. Because I'm thinking too back to the battle of, when you guys are at Okinawa, if you guys don't get hit by that kamikaze, you never go back to San Francisco.
No.
You never pick up that cargo. And history
Yeah.
is rewritten totally differently.
Yeah.
So the fact that you guys were moving at top speed, and you guys were unescorted, correct?
Yeah.
Was that unusual? Was that
Well, I didn't think about it at the time. I mean, I thought about it afterwards when they started talking about it, but at the time, I was only 17 and a half at that time. I mean, I wasn't even, oh yeah, wait a minute, I had become 18 then. My birthday had come, so I was 18 at the time. So I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just,
you're doing what you're told?
yeah.
Yeah, you're following orders. So you're working 4 on, 4 off. You guys are going as fast as you can.
Yeah.
Where are you guys sleeping at night? Are you able to get rest?
I don't remember. I think I rested up. In those days, I was pretty good sleeper. Nowadays, it takes me a long time to go to sleep. But in those days, I think I could just lay down any place and I go to sleep.
You're working so
Yeah,
hard. And
yeah.
As soon as you get a break. So once you arrived in Tinian, tell me what happened. You guys unloaded the cargo.
They unloaded the car, and they had a lot of brass all over the place. They had, and you're still wondering what the hell's going on. With all the brass being around and everything. Big with the hats on with a lot of stuff. So then afterwards, you hear a lot of stories and stuff like that of what they had. I never knew that they had 5. There's one of the one that took it across, but they had 6 of those ready to go. In case one of them broke down, they go shift it to the other one and put it right on it.
What's that?
The B-29, that's like A there. That's
Oh, you're talking about that's the plane that
dropped the first bomb, but they had 6 of those ready to go. I never knew that they had 6. I thought it was only 2, but they had 6. If one of them didn't go, they were ready to load the other one right into it and take it across.
So now that you know the answer to the question of what was in those boxes, tell me what it was.
Well, they sent us a letter from President Truman sent us a letter thanking us and all that stuff, and that we helped turn the war around and stuff like that. That there was many people that did that were helped to turn the war, and that Japan had surrendered and stuff like that. So that made you feel all right. I mean, that you had a little bit to do with it and stuff like that.
But you guys were carrying the atomic parts for the first bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima, correct? I also understand that they said half of the world's supply of uranium was on board as well.
Well, they say that we took the parts. I mean, but we took the whole thing. I don't know why they say we took parts, but to me, we took the whole thing. So I don't know what else they needed. I mean, but
could have been more generic supplies that they added on. But yeah, so if you guys had never made that voyage, if you guys had never arrived in Tinian and dropped off that cargo, who knows what would have happened?
Yeah. Well, it had cost a lot of American lives to go in Japan. They'd never given up. They were people that would not give up.
Well, it took 2 atomic bombs for them to give up. So if that's any indication.
Yeah.
So how long did you guys spend in Tinian after arriving and unloading the cargo? And
we didn't stay too long there. We got from there. We went to Guam and started loading supplies and stuff like that. And I remember they were loading supplies at night and stuff like that on
back
the
to
ship.
business as usual.
Yeah.
And then after you guys left Guam, let me see here. You were headed to Leyte, is that correct?
Yes, I am.
And this was 4 days. Well, this will be 4 days after you guys landed in Tinian, roughly.
I around there. I don't remember. I think it was around that.
And again, you guys are traveling unescorted.
Yes.
Correct. And whose decision was that?
It's supposed to have been a decision of an admiral that was on Guam. And I always said that they should have gone after the admiral instead of a captain and everything, but they went after the captain. So.
And do you know what the reasoning or the logic behind that was?
No, all I heard was that the captain told him that he wouldn't go without an escort, and that the admiral told him that he better go without an escort and go to. That's what I heard, but I don't know. I mean, and I think that instead of going for anybody, they should have gone after the admiral. Myself.
So can we talk about that fateful night and the hours and the time leading up to when that first torpedo struck your ship?
Well, when the first torpedo struck it, I was sleeping down below, and my crew chief came down and picked me up and told me to come upstairs because it was awful hot that night. You know, so the whole top of the ship was loaded with sailors. You know, they were all up on top of the deck. So I went up on top, and we couldn't find any place except for right in the middle of the ship, and that's where we found a little space there, and we were sleeping there. When one of them hit in the front, and Peña was right in the front up there where his watch was, and he said he was walking out, and when he looked back, the whole front of the bow was gone, and that's when he met me up in the back. I ran up to the back after the second one hit, and then there was a big explosion right in the middle. So I ran to the back, and that's where Santos was at, and that's when I told him I didn't have a life jacket, and I had to go down to my locker. He said, You didn't got no chances because the ship's going down. He said the bow's already gone. So I stayed with him.
So the entire deck was covered with sailors sleeping.
Yeah.
Because it was too hot
Yeah.
down below. And I understand you always slept with a blanket on.
Yeah, I had a blanket on because in this town here in Florence, if you were here during the summer and you didn't have a blanket or a sheet on, these mosquitoes would pick you up and carry you out. So I got used to sleeping with a blanket. I don't know why. I had the blanket on. But the big fire was right in the middle of the ship, and it took my blanket out. I mean, when I looked for my blanket, it was gone. So the fire just blew it up, and we had the fire going. I couldn't open my eyes, but I opened them up a little bit and started running to the back. And I didn't have any eyebrows or eyelashes or anything. And I remember my hair being kind of burned up and all that stuff. So I just ran to the back. I don't know how I got there, but I got there.
So if you hadn't had that blanket on, you probably would have sustained.
I think my crew chief that was sleeping next to me, I think he got burned up. Because I would hear everybody saying I'm on fire or I'm on fire. I can't.
But you can't see anything. You can just hear.
I just barely what I could see. I just ran to the back because I could see the fire going up.
And was this after the second torpedo had hit?
Yeah, because I think it hit the ammunition dump and it really blew it up to the top.
How much time was in between each torpedo strike? Were they pretty
I'd say probably six seconds or something, 6 or 7, maybe a little longer.
It was very quick.
Yeah, very quick. I mean, once hit, I remember coming down, and the next one hit, and I remember going up again. So. But the second was bigger than the first one that I felt, because the first one hit in the front of the bow, so I didn't feel that one. The other one hit right about where I was at.
I mean, you must have known it was bad, but
yeah.
You didn't necessarily.
No, by the fire going up, that was. I could tell that was bad myself. But when I ran to the back, that's when I told Santa I wanted to go down to my locker, because the ship, half of the ship is down below. Half of that, the other half is down below, real big. So I could have gone down, but he said you won't come up because it's going down. So like I said, it went 12 minutes. That's what it went down.
So if you had encountered Mr. Pena, there's a good chance that you probably would have gone down there to get your life jacket.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have probably, and he told me that just stay with him, and we still both stay afloat with his jacket. So
you guys ended up abandoning ship. You guys jumped off the side.
Yeah, it was pretty high up. I guess about 2 stories high, way up on top. The side of it was like a pretty good jump from there. When you're coming down the side.
So how long after the torpedoes had hit until you guys were in the water?
I'd say probably 10 minutes, something like that. I don't remember, because it was pretty fast. That ship went down pretty fast.
I understand. In 12 minutes,
it
sank.
So we just kept holding on to the side, and the ship kept coming, going over, and we just kept up on top. When we were up on top, that's when we slid off the other side.
So I understand when you landed in the water, you struck something.
I hit something, and I thought I'd hit it. I thought I hit Santos, and so And I kind of worried about him for about 3 days. I thought I'd killed him anyway, I thought. But then on the third day, I heard some guy speaking in Spanish, and I thought I was going bananas myself because there was quite a few guys. They were drinking the salt water, so I thought I was getting hallucinated. And I heard him talking at night because you could hear pretty good at night. And so during the day, I went around looking for him, and I found him and Fernando Sanchez, another guy from Tucson that were there.
So once you landed in the water, I'm assuming you're trying to swim away from that ship
Yeah.
as fast as you can.
I did. I started swimming, and then I didn't have a life jacket, so I could move around pretty good without the life jacket. So
And are you able to see again? Are you able to open your eyes?
Oh yeah. After that, I'd look back when the ship was going down. I looked back.
So did you see it disappear?
I saw the ending of it, and I never mentioned, but I saw the spotted plane that we had. You know, we had a plane that was a spotter. I saw that plane going down at the end, you know, with a protein. And I never mentioned it to anybody until when the gentleman came over here to tell us about the guys that interviewed us about finding the ship. They were the ones that were involved with it, and they're the ones that interviewed. And I told them about it, and I said that she thought it was pretty funny because they each looked at each other when I told them about it. I said, I saw the plane. Oh, he said, we found the plane down there. So they had found that little plane now. So it was quite an ordeal there to watch that little plane go. But I never mentioned it to anybody because everybody had a different idea of what they saw. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't say any more about it.
So your entire world has changed in a matter of 12 minutes. You're sleeping,
Yep.
You're comfortable, you got your blanket on,
Yeah.
and then 12 minutes later,
Yeah.
you're in the ocean, and your ship is gone. What are the thoughts going through your head at that point?
I never had any. I don't remember what thoughts I had, but I was just scared as hell. That's all I could say. I mean, I didn't even think I was going to jump off of that ship. I thought the ship was going to stay afloat.
Because it's pitch black at night.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, this is.
But the moon was coming in and out of clouds, and at times you could see where it was just this. You could see your hands and light as it was daylight, and as soon as the moon got in behind the cloud, pitch dark. You couldn't see anything. So it kept changing from both ways, from light. And sometimes you could see it real well, other times you couldn't. But a lot of hollering, there was a lot of yelling. And but I was I wasn't ready to jump right away. I mean, I was going to stay on.
You wanted to stay aboard
Yeah.
as long
Yeah.
as you could.
But Santos was the one that told me, he said, no, this thing's going, let's go.
And he jumped first and
Yeah,
you followed him.
I followed him right behind.
And were you a pretty strong swimmer?
Well, I thought I was pretty good, but that ocean was a lot tougher than I was. But I used to swim in the canals here since I was about 5 or 6 years old. I mean, so I thought I was a good swimmer, but in the ocean it was pretty rough out there.
And you're in the water. You have no life jacket. You have nothing to keep you afloat. Did you eventually find a life raft?
I got a hold of a side of a life raft. I didn't get in it. I just got on the side of it. Because there was a lot of other sailors and they were fighting. They didn't want you to get on and stuff like that. And I said, well, I'm not getting on, but I'll hold on to it. Because I got a little afraid of getting on them because I thought these guys, and they were bigger and stuff like that. You know, they started punching each other and starting to, and a lot of them said afterwards, "Oh no, we didn't do that. We were buddies right in there." What I saw wasn't buddies. Yeah,
Yeah. Everybody wants to survive.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't enough life rafts
Yeah.
for everybody.
No.
So you're holding on to the side of it. You lost your best friend,
Yeah.
essentially. You thought you potentially had killed him. How many other sailors are holding on?
Oh, there's quite a few sailing all around. I mean, a lot of them started getting on top of the inside the raft. The raft had ropes underneath that. You were in the water anyway. If you got in the raft, you were in the water anyway because there was just ropes on. And there was around it. There was a lot of sailors holding on. I got on where I held on, and for 3 days my crew chief was there with me, and I kept tying him up, and he kept. I think he kept drinking a little salt water because I had a hard time controlling him a little bit and stuff like that. So
this was the guy that was sleeping next to you, the guy
Yeah.
who brought you topside.
no, he's not the guy that brought me the topside. He was the main crew chief of the whole thing. He was the only guy in my crew that I saw there that made it, and I kept him for 3 days. I kept him tied up there, and finally he loosened up and got away from me. But I always thought that if I could have got him on top of the inside the raft, I could have kept him alive. But the person that I touched up there on top a couple of times, I asked him if I could get my crew chief up there. He pushed me underwater, and then I lost my crew chief. He took off on me after.
So can you talk about that first day in the ocean? I'm sure time is moving very slowly, and you don't know if anybody knows that your ship had gone down. You don't know if anybody's coming for you.
I wasn't. I don't know. I never thought of it. I thought that we were going to be picked up within hours. I thought. Even a day. During the day, I figured they'd pick us up. I never thought that we were going to be up there 4 or 5 days. I thought that somebody was going to. But I don't know why it was never told around there what.
You were pretty optimistic about.
Well, I thought at the beginning, I thought it was. But then some of the sailors, after the third day, they started talking, and they say, I don't think anybody knows we're down here or something like that, But at the beginning, I thought that somebody would be there within. I did. But after the third day, I guess I started thinking the same as the other guys did. I guess they're not going to pick us up.
So that hope started to fade
Yeah.
a bit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And you guys didn't have any food, any clean
No,
water to drink. During the daytime, was it pretty hot? That sun beating down on you?
Oh, yeah. It got hot, and at night it got cold, and the waves started getting up to 10, 12 foot high. At night, that ocean gets real mean. And during the day, it calms down and it's real nice, but at night, I don't know why it gets different, let's say, but it really goes around.
And I imagine you probably can't sleep at all.
Well, I slept maybe a little bit, not much. Some of the other people, they had a friend or something that would hold them and stay up. I didn't have anybody that would. So I was kind of more or less on my own. And most of it, I never had a life jacket, which was another thing that couldn't let me go, because if I did, I'd go down. So I had a T-shirt that I put around a rope on the raft, and I put one handle on it, and then I put the other one from one side to the other, and that's the way I would hold on, and sometimes I'd fall asleep a little bit. One of the times that I fell asleep, I drank a little bit of the salt water, and so I was afraid to go to sleep and have to drink the salt water. So.
Did you drink it intentionally because you were
No, you drink it when you're asleep. You
just catch a mouthful.
Happen at a time.
And can you describe a little bit, because you're sitting? I mean, you have no clean water to drink, and you're sitting in this enormous pool of water that you can't drink. Otherwise,
yeah,
it'll kill you. That's a big mental.
Oh, it gets to you. I think that's what happened to a lot of the sailors. They just couldn't resist drinking that water. I mean, and I don't know. I used to get the same thing with alcohol. I couldn't resist the alcohol. And so it's the same thing with the water, I guess. So it's rough.
Was there anything in particular that you would do, sort of, to keep hope alive, to distract your mind?
I didn't. I never said anything, but when I left San Francisco, my mother had given me a little medal of St. James, and so all the time I was there, I had this medal of St. James, and I had it in my mouth. And I had it all this time, and just kept. And a lot of people came up and said, "That's what kept you going," so because you had that saliva on that medal on it. So I kept saying, "Well, maybe that was." So I know that somebody put it in the book. I think Chuck Clemens or somebody. And a lady called him from New York asking him, they want to know if the saint was blessed. And I said, I don't remember. I think my mother had it blessed up in San Jose. But I don't know.
Did you guys get any rain over those?
Not. But you know one thing? We had rain all the time I was in that. And I used to sleep outside at night sometimes, and it'd be pouring rain, and you have to run back down below. But during those 5 days, I didn't catch a drop. There's some of the guys that said that they did get some rain on it, but I never, not a drop. But it was raining all the time when you didn't need it, it was raining.
So they estimate about 300 men went down with the ship, and about 900 more were kind of floating in the ocean initially. Did you guys start drifting apart from each other?
Well, if you drift apart from a raft or something, you could not get back together. I don't know why it is that instead of going the same way that the raft did, it seems that it's pushing you aside. So at the beginning, I remember I'd go swimming out and picking up people and bringing them back into the raft. But then about the second day, third, I was very, very tired. I couldn't go out and bring those people. So they would float out by themselves, But you try to bring them back into the raft so they could be in the same group. Because the sharks were pretty good at getting you if you were by yourself, They go after the people that were separate from the group,
Yeah. They start picking them off.
Yeah.
If they floated away. Um, and I understand it's a very rough situation to be in, and I understand that some sailors
Yeah.
kind of gave up and drifted off by themselves. Did you have any thoughts of that?
No, I never. I was going to hang on to that raft and stay there till. I never thought. I don't know why I kept them, but I can't remember saying that I was giving up. And up to this age right now, at 91, I'm not giving up. So I felt that way when I was in the water. So.
And since you guys didn't have any food, and I'm sure whatever supplies were very, very minimal, was there even an opportunity to try to fish for food, or?
I never tried to do. They say that some of them guys tried, and some of them said they had a little bit of food and pills and stuff like that, but I never got any of it. So but they did say they had some that they and some of them said they had some water also there that they had, and the different stories that somebody broke into it and they got salt water into it and stuff like that. So, but I never got any of it.
Not nearly enough to go around.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, I guess those first moments, there were sailors fighting against each other.
They say that I saw a couple of them. I try to stay away from it. As soon as I saw something going, I'd go the other way. I wouldn't stick there or try to separate or anything like that. I just swim. Being that I didn't have the life jacket, I could swim out and swim away pretty easy. And the guys with the life jacket, they were all soaky and stuff. They couldn't move around like I could. I couldn't. So I was without a life jacket the whole time I was in the water.
And did that fighting continue as the days went on, or sort of?
They did. I mean, but not as. They separated them as pretty quickly, and I didn't stick around to watch them because I go the other way. I mean, but they did have some. You could hear them sometimes hollering or something like that, but I didn't.
Did you guys see any planes in the sky? Did you see any ships?
Oh, you saw planes up. Probably from the first day, the second day, you see planes going up, and you think that they would see a flare or something like that. And I remember somebody saying that you couldn't see anything from way up there. I mean, there was a joke saying about you couldn't see anything from up there, and we were lucky that they say that Gwen happened to come down there. If he hadn't come down to see where, he still couldn't see him from way up there where he was at until he got down.
So did some guys have flares that they used?
They had some flares and they showed them up, but they say if there's a plane 10, 15,000 feet up there, they're not looking for that. He said
they're looking.
Yeah.
They're looking in a different direction. So how was that mentally challenging as well to see a plane potential a rescue, and then have it fly off in the distance?
Well, it was hard. I mean, you'd say, well, I don't know, maybe something. They did see something. Maybe they were. Relay something, but it was just they were just hoping or something like that. They would. It wasn't until Chuck Wynn came down with this plane, and then that was.
And we talked a little bit about the sharks in the water. You didn't experience any.
Well, you'd
contact
see
with
him and you'd hear, but you'd hear him hollering whenever a shark would attack there on the sea. You could hear it, and they would holler and stuff like that. But I never saw him attack or anything like that. But I could hear him.
you see him swimming
yeah.
below you at all?
Oh, you'd see him when you look down. You could see one or two sharks flying right through there. You could. If the water was clear or something like that, you could see him, and you could see him up. Well, I was on what they call a net, and I'd get on that net sometimes at night, so they'd wake me up, squeeze me and wake me up, and I saw a shark come up and get one of those nets and take it down with him. So so things like that you see, but you don't. And you didn't grab me or anything like that, but anyway.
Yeah. If you guys didn't have enough to deal with already, you didn't need
Yeah.
sharks to add on top of that. So you guys were floating for about 3.5 days, and then Mr. Gwynn comes by.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that moment and how that all transpired?
I thought it was a mirage myself. I didn't think it was a plane. Because somebody hollered, "It's a plane," and the only thing I could remember was that the little fellow Tefugo, what's his name, when he used to holler about the plane and
The plane.
and so then the second time he came around, I thought that probably it was him. So then everybody started hollering, but then the second plane that came over and landed, I didn't see it. But Santos Peña said he flew right. He swam right up to it, and he swam down there.
So you're in pretty bad shape at this point.
Oh,
I would imagine.
everybody's pretty bad. I don't think many of them would have gone another 2 or 3 days. I don't think any of them.
And did you experience any hallucinations or kind of fade in and out of consciousness
No.
at all?
I never did, no.
But I'm assuming you were probably pretty weak.
Yeah. I was weak and everything, but I think I had my head going pretty good at most of the time.
And,
I don't remember ever.
And just to rewind a little bit, I remember you mentioned that you heard Santos Peña, his voice, while you guys were in the water. Was this before?
There was about the third day is when I heard his voice.
Okay, so
I heard it at night, and that's when I thought I was going out of my mind too, I heard. So that's when next day I went around, because there was a big group in our section. It was probably about 80 to 90 in our group.
all kind of hanging
Yeah.
on one raft.
Yeah, kind of holding on to each other and stuff like that. So I went around to the edges, and I came over and found Santos Peña and his friend Fernando Sanchez. They were both from Tucson, and both would speak Spanish. So that's how I picked out they were speaking Spanish the night before. So I went looking for them. I thought maybe at first I was dreaming, but then I thought, well, I'll go look and see. So I did find him.
So you thought you might have been hearing the voice of a
Yeah.
ghost, because you thought you might have killed him a few days
Yeah.
prior. How good was it to see?
Oh, it was great. He was jumping up and down, so was I. We were both really. But I told him I'd come back and see him, because I had to go see. That's when I was taking care of my crew chief. I had him tied up. So when I got back, my crew chief had untied himself and taken off. So.
And he was tied directly to the side of the raft.
Yeah. I had him tied up there to the side. He untied himself and took off.
And he was the only other survivor of your crew.
Yeah.
Until that point.
And he was my crew chief. He was the main guy that was up there on top, watching the whole thing. He was there.
So you went from sort of a jubilant moment seeing your best friend, who you thought had been killed, and then you return back to your crew chief, and he's not there anymore.
Well, I saw him waving at me. He was going up and down on the wave, and I could see him waving at me from way up there, So
he was saying goodbye.
Yeah, oh yeah, all the time. I always thought that I had a chance of saving him. It always comes to me that if I'd have just gotten a little help from the people that were on there and put them in the rough, I could have. But it didn't happen, so.
And let me ask you too, because as I understand it, you were pretty much right next to the outside of the raft with your crew chief.
Oh yeah, all the time.
And then Santos Peña, he was more towards the outskirts, holding on to other sailors, more or less.
Well, there was a big group around,
So when you left and encountered Santos Peña, you had to work your way back towards the raft. I imagine that would be quite difficult.
Yeah, it takes a while to get from that to the other place. It wasn't easy to get back.
I'm sure people probably aren't welcoming.
Yeah, you had to go around. You couldn't just. You had to go around and I was kind of lucky because I didn't have a life jacket. If I had a life jacket, it would have taken longer for me to go. But being I was free, I didn't have anything. I was able to move around.
Did you ever try to search for a life jacket? Was that ever
Well, it was a thought of me, but afterwards they told me that there was a lot of life jackets around, but they never offered me one, and they knew that I didn't have one, so they must have hid them around for me. So I don't know.
So you still feel like there was that prejudice going on, even though you guys were.
I don't know. I mean, I couldn't tell that there was a prejudice thing about it not getting life jacket. But I know that I never had one, so.
Got it. So going back to when the plane came, Mr. Gwynn finally came down. Was that a float plane? Did he land on the ocean, or
no?
Did he just spot you guys?
Yeah, it's a plane that can't land on the water. I mean,
so did he circle around a few times, letting you guys know?
Yeah, and then he radioed in and. Then, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours, 4 hours later, a seaplane came in, and then these are one that landed down in the water. I never got close to it or anything like that. But Santos said he flew down. He swam down to it and got on it. So I don't know.
Do you know about how many men would be able to fit on that?
Well, they said they had 60, 70 men on there. I don't know. Because I didn't see that plane. I saw it in a picture afterwards, but I didn't see it when I was there.
Got it. So, once you saw Mr. Gwynn signaling to you that he knew you guys were down there, it was a few hours before the float plane came and started picking guys up. But how much longer were you waiting to get rescued?
We didn't get rescued until the next day. They tried to come in at night. We saw a lot of spotlights coming in at night, coming in, and then probably it was around 12 o'clock or 11 or 12. We saw all of them go off, the spotlight.
Because you're still in hostile territory.
Well, the next day they said that they had gotten a report that they had spotted submarines in the area, and that they thought that the Japanese were still submarines there or something like that. So they took off the spotlights and they So, but they found out that it wasn't that next day. So, but that was the report they had. But after the light was out, I said, well, there they go. He said, but they started picking us up the next day, so which is that's the day I got picked up on this.
And how did you get out of the water?
Well, they came in with a hook and picked me up and put me into a kind of a landing barge, and then they took me close to the Bassett, which was there, and he kept. It was pretty rough, and the ship kept going up and down, so they had to carry me in a kind of a gurney deal. They tied me up, and pulled me up to the top. And
Do you remember which ship it was?
Bassett.
The Bassett. Okay.
Yeah, it was, and the sailor, and they did a heck of a job. Those guys that were there, you know, because they come over and give you a little bit of water. And they were probably 18, 19 years old themselves, you know, and they acted like they were real good sailors and everything. They come over, they gave me a little drink of water, real small, and boy, it was nice. I drank it, and I told him to give me some more, and he said, "That's all you can have for right now." I said, so he said that I cussed him out in Spanish pretty good. So he said, "If I'd have known Spanish, you would have been picking yourself out of the water again." But I don't remember what I called him in Spanish or anything. But
how good did it feel to get out of that water?
oh my God, I thought I lay down and I stayed there, and the next thing I knew, I remember waking up in a cot. You know, they put me into a. So I fell asleep right away. I mean, I thought I slept for 2 days or something. But they used to wake me up about every 5-10 minutes, and pick me up and give me a little drink or give me a little water. And those guys did a real good job. They pick you up, but the second day, gave you a bath, gave you everything, take the oil off from you and stuff like that. So everything was pretty good.
So you guys were covered in oil from the ship
Yeah.
as well?
Yeah, oh yeah, you were pretty well covered there.
Did you sustain any sunburn? Or
Well, I don't remember ever, but I guess I could have been. But the oil kind of kept you from getting sunburn, I guess.
Protected you.
Yeah, you were full of oil all the time anyway. You were.
So when you're catching mouthfuls of that
Oh yeah, and your
seawater,
mouth,
you're getting
your eyes were full of it all the time. You know, your eyes were full of. Well, everything was. You. So it wasn't a vacation anyway.
Again, not what you signed up for.
Oh, no, I was supposed to be there to see them gals.
So where did they take you?
They took me to Samara, the Philippines, Samara, and they had Quonset house there. You know, they had Quonset, and they had made it into a hospital, so they had the kind of Quonset huts where they put you in there. They had a couple of beds inside there for the. So I guess they made it as a quick hospital or something like that, and they put us in there.
How quickly did you get there? How long were you on the Bassett for before you arrived?
Yeah, you know, I can't remember, but it must have been quite a while because they bathed us and everything else, and we got so. It must have been 4 or 5 days. I really can't remember, but I remember when they got us in there, I couldn't stand very well. When you stand, all your legs were feeling like there were a bunch of ants on it, you know, tingling all over you. It took us about 4 or 5 days to get all that tingling out of there. I guess get the circulation back into it.
Because you hadn't stood up in
Yeah.
that long.
Yeah.
And going back to when you initially jumped off the ship, whatever you landed on, whatever you hit, did that do any Were you still recovering
Yeah.
from whatever you hit there?
I don't, like I said, it was kind of hard for me to stand on, and I don't think I ever got well on my knees. My knees were always hurting after that, and I can't tell that it was that was it. And now that my knees hurt, I don't know whether it's from that or arthritis or something.
And they gave you little bits of water here and there. When did you finally get food in your system again?
I guess we got it there when they given us all on the ship whatever they had there. You know, they didn't have too much. We didn't get anything until we got to the Philippines, to Samara there, and then they started feeding us. They used to bring us trays and up to the where we were, and we'd eat there. We didn't have to go in to get in line or anything like that. Yeah. They bring us the trays and we get fed there.
So how long were you spending in the Philippines recovering and
I don't remember, but they did fly us out of there. Well, they asked us if we were going to all get together in Guam, in a base hospital in Guam. So they asked us if we wanted to go on ship or fly, and I said, no, I'll fly. I never flown, but I won't take a ship. So they flew us into Guam. And base hospital there, we stayed there for, I guess, a month and something like that. Yeah.
If you can say, would you say a majority of the sailors chose to fly rather than?
I think so. I think because the group that I was in, they wanted to fly. So I don't know how many of them went on ship, but I know they brought him in from the Philippines. They brought him in from wherever the other little islands they took him to. You know, they took him to other little islands around there. So they brought them all into the one hospital where they put all of the survivors there.
And once you ended up on Guam, you were recovering more there. And
Yeah, we had more doctors, more everything, and then they put us into a submarine camp where they go in and they have food 24 hours a day, you know. So they put us in there for a week or something like that. And they gave us food all the time. Yes.
Trying to fatten you back up.
Yeah.
And then after, I guess when you were on Guam, were all of the survivors of the Indianapolis there?
Yeah.
To your knowledge. So you're seeing the survivors, and I guess you can get an idea for the number of sailors that are there compared to how many were actually on the ship. At what point did that realization set in, or did you know that about 75% of the crew had been lost?
I guess right away, after you get to the hospital, you realize how many are there. You know, because they have a count, and then when we were coming back on the aircraft carrier Hollandia, that's when they're bringing us back to the States, and then you really know that how many are there. You know, they have a picture of all of them that they have. Someplace I saw it, but I don't remember where.
Did you feel pretty lucky to be one of those survivors?
Yes, I thought I was. I was, yeah. I felt that, but I don't know. I don't know why I was one, but I did feel lucky, yeah, that I was one of the survivors. So,
So you eventually came back on a aircraft carrier.
yeah.
You said.
All of us came back on an aircraft carrier.
So you didn't have the option to fly back from
No,
Guam.
no.
Was there any reservation about getting on board that ship?
No, I didn't have. When they said you're going home, I said, yeah, I'll go home. And then being on the carrier wasn't as bad as being on a ship. The carrier seems to be a lot bigger for you, so that was pretty good.
And the war is over at this
Yeah.
point. Had you heard about the bombs being dropped on?
Oh yeah, well they sent us a letter and stuff like that, from President, and then we heard that the bombs hit me. But I don't remember when we knew that we were the ones that helped bring the bomb over. I don't remember exactly when, but I do know that when we got the letter from President Truman, we knew that we had something to do with it.
And I also read too. I don't know how accurate this is, but I read that they said that three SOS messages had been received for when the Indianapolis was sinking, or when it was going down. They sent out a distress call. They said three messages were actually received, but none of the men acted on it.
That's what I heard. Yeah.
For various different reasons.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on that at all?
No, I never did think about it or anything like that, because I figured that they, all the way around, they just dropped the ball someplace. I mean, because when I was in the water, I thought we'd be picked up in a couple of hours. I mean, a couple of days, but it never did happen. So I never did think any more about it. Yeah. I didn't have time. I mean, I was worried about other things. So.
And when you guys are coming over on the Hollandia, you said?
Yes,
Is this when your ordeal started with being accused of insubordination? And
yeah.
Can you talk to me a little bit about that experience, how that started? And
Well, they put you down on roll call. I mean, they line you up the whole 300 and I don't think they had 17. They have 300 must have been there. I mean, other 10 weren't probably around there, but and then they put you in a work detail, and my name came up that first day. My name came up, so I went on a work detail. You go around all over the aircraft carrier. You pick up boxes and stuff like that for different things, and you did it for half a day, and then the next day you go up to roll call again, and they're going to give another work detail. So my name comes up again. So I didn't think nothing about it. I said, I'll go down. I didn't, because they made me walk all around the aircraft carrier anyway. And I'd never been in an aircraft carrier, so I was learning a lot about it. So that's the second time they put me through a work detail with boxes and stuff like that. So on the third day, the lieutenant picked me up again. And this is when I told him, I said, if he didn't think it was a time for him to pick somebody else from the crew, I said, we got another 300 survivors here that could probably do a little better than me. I said, and my back hurts a little bit. And I think he was just waiting for me anyway. So he put me through the meals, and when they took me into, out to see the captain of the. There was a captain and my lieutenant, nobody else, and I had nobody helping me, nobody doing. So they gave me a 5 days bread and water, and when I spent 2 days there on the ship, and the second when they were taking him off off the ship in San Diego, I remember the lieutenant coming over to me and he said that he was sorry about everything that happened and all this. And I told him, I'll find out where you live at. I'll go find you. Don't go into any dark corners at night, I said. And I bet he never did. But they gave me that, and then when I got to the barracks, the guy, they gave me a bunk. They gave me everything to sleep in. Oh my God! I said they must have found out I was from the Indianapolis, and they didn't want to. They're not going to give me a deal. They're going to let me go. And next morning, they gave me a nice big breakfast, real nice. And then I came back to the barracks. I said, well, I'll take some of my clothes and go outside. And they had a deal where you wash your clothes up outside. So I went outside, and after a while, I see two MPs coming over. And they asked me if my name was Celaya. I said, yeah. Well, he said, we got to take you in. He said, you got to go spend another 5 days. So, bread and water. I said, why? I said, I've spent 2 already. Well, we made a mistake. So you have to start all over again. So they gave me 7 days. They put me into a little cubby hole, and I spent another 5 days on that. That's worse than being in the water.
And this was only a matter of a month and a half or 2 months after your
A month and a half after I spent 5 days in the ocean, they gave me. But I think the captain of the Hollandia, the ship, and the lieutenant got in cahoots and just decided that's what it was. And I would bet, any amount of money that both of them were from a state that was, and I always wanted to say, I wanted to find out what state they were from, but I never did. I said, let it go.
So you were essentially in solitary confinement.
Yeah. Just like it. Yeah. And in those days, like I said, you had no recourse. You couldn't fight it.
I imagine at that point you were probably ready to get out of the Navy as quick as you could.
Well, I wanted to, but I spent another couple of months in the hospital till they let me out, so it took a while for me to get out of the Navy. But I was happy to get out.
Do you know about how long it took for you to regain your strength and regain your weight and kind of feel better again?
I don't think I got over until I got to high school, and the coach up here at high school started working me out because I told him it'd take me a long time to get in shape to play basketball. He wanted me to play basketball. I said, I don't think I could get in shape with it. But he got me in shape, and it took me a long time. Because when I weighed 145 pounds when I jumped in the water. When they took me off, I weighed 120. So I had lost about 25 pounds out in the ocean.
And I know that, or I understand that some people came down pretty hard on Captain McVeigh.
Yeah. It was mostly the parents of the sailors that didn't make it. Most of the sailors that got the survivors, they stayed with the captain, but most of the parents of the survivors that didn't make, the sailors that didn't make it, they got in real hard with the captain. So he took it kind of hard for the letters that he got and stuff like that.
You feel he didn't deserve that type of treatment that he received. And I'm sure that stuck with him for a lot of years.
Yeah.
All right. So when were you officially discharged from the Navy?
Long Beach Naval Hospital. I spent, I guess, 2 months there after nowadays they call it what's that, DSP or whatever. And in those days they called you were crazy.
Oh, PTSD?
Yeah. So they kept me in there for a couple of months, and then after I got discharged, they gave me 50% disability and told me that I could not join the Navy again. And I said, boy, that's a blessing. So I came to Tucson. I was 18 years old at the time. And my dad had a little apartment there uptown, and I stayed there. My first night I stayed there, and I had a dream that I was in the water and I was sweating in the mattress there that I was staying with. My dad was a bus driver, so he didn't come in till about 1 or 1:30 or something like that. Or if he did come in. So I woke up, I guess, sweating and in that little dream, and I didn't know what they had given me a bunch of pills when I got discharged, but the pills never worked. I mean, all those pills. But my dad had a couple of bottles of liquor, and I took a couple of shots of those, and I wasn't drinking, and I was out for the night, So every night I used to go to a little bar they had there in Tucson, and I'd go there and meet some of the boys that spent the war up with me, and we'd get together almost every night and talk, and I thought that's what I was going to do for a while, but I used to get pretty well loaded there. And one of the fellows that didn't like me very well there at the bar, so I'd say there would be about 8 or 9 of us every night there, and he went down to the bartender and told him, he said, because I used to wear the Navy uniform with me to go to the bar, because that way they serve. And the guy told him, he said, he said, they're going to shut you down here at the bar. He said, what? He said, well, you're serving a minor up there. He said, he's only 18 years old, which was me. And he said, if Anybody that comes in here in a uniform, he said, I don't care how old they are, he said, they're going to get served. And I heard him say that, shoot, every night I was there with my uniform on. He never refused me a drink or nothing, so. And a lot of times I used to talk to him about what they had on the ship and stuff. One of the times I was walking outside, and the bus from Florence High School, where I used to go to grammar school with a bunch of those boys, they came by and they waved at me, and I waved back at them. And they told the coach who I was, and that I used to play ball when I was young. And he said he could probably help us come over if we played basketball at that. So the coach was from Tucson there. He came over to the bar there where I was at. I remember meeting him. I don't remember much of it, but he asked me, they tell me that you can play basketball. I said, well, I played a little. And so I said, you can help me if I come down to high school. He said, I'm too old. I said, I can't play anymore. I'm way out of shape. I said, so finally he convinced me that I could go to high school and get paid by the government. So I told him I'd be there on Monday morning. Monday morning came around, and instead of me being over at the high school, I was there back at the bar, sitting down right there. So the next week, he came back again, and he told me, he said, well, they tell me you can play a little basketball. Why don't you come down? I'm out of shape, and I'll get you in shape, he told me. So at that time, the door opened at the bar, both doors, and three of the big boys from Florence that I used to know when I was a kid. They came in, grabbed me, threw me into a bus that they had there, and they hijacked me to Florence, and that's how I got to play basketball there in Florence. So that the coach did get me in shape. He did make me run, he put me through. So that's how I got in shape with him, putting me through there.
And you were a freshman, because you said you had stopped school in 8th grade.
I was a freshman. I was a 19-year-old freshman in high school. So
you're older than most of, if not all, the other players, correct?
Well, I was the same age as the same other players, because I had gone to a grammar school with them. But when they graduated, then I was older than the other players when I went the following year. When I won the state championship, it was the following year. And then I was older than the other players that were there. But when I came back to high school, most of the players were my age that were there. Then they graduated, and I was a freshman when they graduated, and I said I wasn't going to come back to school, but then they took me because there weren't any jobs or anything in those days, so they said I would be getting paid for going to school, so I stayed in school. So, and then I was a freshman the following year, because I had only been going half a semester, and the other boys that were there, they were mostly 17 years old, and some of them become 19. I was 19 at the time. I think they made that if you had signed in before then you were 19, you could play basketball. So I played basketball that 1947 season and most of the other boys were younger than I was. So I stayed there, and we played with all of them were Hispanics players, and we went over and beat everybody that in high school. And in those days, we didn't play Class A, Class B, or anything like that. You played everybody. If you beat everybody, you beat the best of them out of everybody. So we played, and we won the state championship. They named me captain of the all-state team, and then I went to junior college and played a few years in junior college. And then I went to San Jose State, but I didn't play basketball up there.
Do you remember what your record was for that season, the championship season?
You mean in basketball?
Yeah, how many games you won? How many games you
I think we won. I think we only lost a couple of games. One of them we lost to Coolidge on was 26, 25 or something like that, and it was because I had 12 free shots and I missed every one of them. So then I went back to the gym and I changed over from shooting one hand to underhand. So I used an underhand the rest of my season. So most of my points were shooting underhand free shots, in which I made most of them. I didn't. And the other one, we were playing St. Mary's in Phoenix, and we were ahead by 4 points. And we had about 40 seconds to go. And I remember my coach saying to freeze the ball, and I had about 18 points. I wanted more, and so they gave me a easy layup. I missed it, and they went back and scored, and then they stole the ball and tied the game. And then they came back and beat us, And I think that was when we won the state championship, we froze the ball in the last 2 minutes of the game with only 1 point ahead. We freeze the ball for 2 minutes.
Because this is before the shot clock was invented.
Yeah. And what we did at St. Mary's made us win the state championship, because when he said you freeze the ball for 2 minutes, and after I got the cheering out from the St. Mary, oh my God. I remember they used to have priests going by, and he was cussing, that coach was cussing them. I can still remember him cussing.
So you learned your lesson from that St. Mary's.
Yeah, to the state championship. And that happened 6 months later or something, I can't remember, but when he said freeze the ball up there and you're ahead only by 1 point, everybody thought we were crazy.
But you guys did it.
But we did it. We froze the ball for 2 minutes and won the game by 1 point. Everybody still doesn't believe it. I mean, they saw the game.
Who did you guys beat in the championship game?
Huh?
Who did you guys beat in the championship game?
Douglas. They had 3 boys over 6 feet, 2. One about 6 feet. The other one was about 5'10". 3 of them were bigger than any of ours. We didn't have one boy over 6 feet. So we So, in the championship, but our biggest deal was beating the other teams that we played before we meet Douglas. They had boys 6'4", 6'5", and we happened to beat them. But getting into the last game, which we won 4 games in that, and all short Hispanic boys.
To rewind a little bit about when you first arrived home and you saw your father again for the first time, had he known what you had been through before you getting home? And did you ever talk to him about what you experienced?
I don't think we've talked much. I don't think my dad was not that kind of a talk. He was not. I don't. I always thought that maybe he thought the $10,000 insurance that I would have had would have probably been better. I just thought like that. I don't know, but I'm sure that he was glad to see that I was home and stuff like that. I'm not. I'm just joking about that. But I know I had when I was a server, I saved saving funds. I bought one every month that all the time I was in the service, and I thought I had some money when I got back, and my dad's name was the same as mine, so my dad thought that the savings funds were his, so he cashed them all. As soon as I came out here, he cashed everything. So I didn't have any money when I came home. So, but I'm pretty sure that he was glad I was back and stuff like that. But my dad was never a sportsman. He was never. I don't think he ever. He only went to the championship game that I know of. He never went to any of my high school games. Never nothing.
And you mentioned earlier about the nightmare the dream, as you said, that you had about being in the water.
Yeah.
Did those dreams recur?
Oh, they've been all over me since then. I mean, I've never left them. I mean, they've been with me 91 years. I mean, as I go back, I say, there must be so many young kids that came from the war, from Europe, from the Pacific area. If they went through to any kind of hardship, they had to have a hell of a time. If I had a hell of a time, they had to have the same things that I had. So it never goes away from you. Yeah, I have so many psychiatrists says, "Well, you gotta forget them," and I said, "How in the hell can you forget it? You can't do." The only way I forgot them was I used to drink pretty good tequila in my days, and drinking took it away from me. And I think it took it away from a lot of veterans, young kids, And that's why
is that more of a temporary fix?
That's why we had so many of our young kids that were drinking and stuff like that, and because the pills and everything that the Veterans Administration gave you never worked for me. I don't know if it worked for them, but for me it never worked. And liquor was the only thing that worked for me, and the only thing that worked for me was tequila, and I drank it till 40 years ago. I had to quit because if I hadn't, I wouldn't be around to be talking to you. The doctor told me, he said, if you don't quit, you're going.
And when did you start speaking about your experiences?
Well, it took me about, I don't know, 30 years, something like that, to be able to speak about it. I never spoke. My sons and daughters, they were probably in college when they started hearing about it. I never spoke about anything like that at all.
And do you feel that it's helped? Has it been healing at all? Has it helped the healing process at all?
Well, I thought it helped me when I started speaking about it. I thought it was a helping process to me when I started saying a few words. But I didn't start till I was in I guess in San Jose. I had met the pilot that found us in the water, Chuck Wynn, and he used to go and give talks about he discovered this out in the ocean and stuff like that, how it happened. And then he would invite me to go down and say things. So, but I wouldn't. I go down to the end of the restaurant or wherever it was, and I stay right. And I say, "Well, I got a survivor, but he's way down there. He doesn't want to come into." But little by little, he brought me in to say. So he's the one that brought me into the talk at high schools and stuff like. Because he was superintendent of maintenance at the East High School. It had 10, 13 high schools, and I'd go to some of the high schools and give talks at the schools, and stuff like that. But I found out that a lot of the young people don't like to hear too much about it. They could care less.
No, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, very unfortunate. But I did run into one gentleman up here in Tucson by the name of Don Dickerson, the one that made me that check that I told you. He's good. He started teaching those kids, and those kids came out, and they knew everything about the ship. They knew everything when I went down there to give a talk. He was good at it.
I think that's what it comes down to is education. If you don't understand something, if you don't know about it, then it's hard to care about it. So,
I think if they'd have given him the go ahead or something, but I think he quit. He finally decided he didn't want to, because the people didn't want to back him up or something like that. I don't know. I haven't heard from him. I heard that he's going to be writing now, but they should have kept him in that field because he could have gotten a lot of those high school kids that were real good at it. They really followed you up. They come over and carry you by the hand and stuff like that. But we just don't. I didn't find it when I was talking at the high school. I didn't find it there, and I didn't find it at the college level either.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add about your time during the service, your experiences, anything about your life that we haven't talked about or you'd like to elaborate on a bit?
I'm just glad I'm alive. That's it. I'm glad I'm here. But
Oh my.
I do hope that somebody gets with the young people and tell them that, how close this was for us to lose this war, and if we had it, we wouldn't be speaking English. That's for sure. But there was a lot of young kids, very tough young kids, Marines, whatever you look at, that came into this war and just young. I mean, they were not. I still say that the people that won this war was 19, 20, 25-year-old people, boys. Not the old timers. They drew the pencils up there. The young kids that went in there and they were tough kids.
When people call you a hero, how do you respond to that?
I don't like it. I mean, I try to not think about it, and that's like my friend Santos Peña said. I don't like for them to be calling me that. He said he never liked it. I tried to get him into coming with me to go to different. He never would go. I mean, and I think more about it now. In later years, I enjoyed it a little bit more than I did when I was younger. I think now sometimes I'm walking uptown and somebody will say, if it hadn't been for you, you know, the war may still be going or something like that, you know. But some people do realize that the atomic bomb did save a lot of lives, but other people don't think it that way.
Two sides to every coin.
Yeah.
Last question I have for you. If you have any advice or wisdom that you could share for my generation, future generations, what could you offer?
Just stay in school and study as hard as you can, because that's one thing I never did have. I didn't have the schooling, and I wish I'd have stayed in school. And I hope all of these young kids stay in there, become doctors, lawyers, whatever they want to be. But I wish I'd have stayed in school longer. I mean, and studied. That's what I never did.
Well, I want to thank you very much.
Thank you
For sharing your story.
All right.
And you are a hero.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll take it. You know, when I was talking to you about that, we used to get on that bar, and with those all the guys from out overseas that were out in the Pacific or in there, we'd be talking at this bar, and I was telling them the story about the Indianapolis, and every night they would come over and they wanted to listen about what happened in Indianapolis. So each night I'd come over, and I have a different story, you know, I had a different, and even the bartender and everybody else that was around there, they'd like to hear it, so they would I get a pretty good crowd hearing about it. And this one night we were all getting ready to, had a few drinks and getting ready to and a guy comes running in. One of my friends comes over, he says, Celaya, don't be talking about it. What do you mean? Don't talk about the Indianapolis, don't say nothing. Why not? He said, look at it, there's a big gang outside. He said, they're going to hang President Truman in effigy. What? Oh, yeah, because he dropped the bomb in Tokyo. And here you're talking about the bomb and everything, and you're on the uniform, hide him behind the bar. So they all put me on there and they hide me. And there's about 150 people outside, you know, because the federal building is right there. And they're hiding me out behind. Hide him, and everybody. If somebody comes here looking, if they seen a sailor, no, you know, we'll fight him. But they all went down and they hung President Truman in effigy. And I ran home and I had my uniform on. I took it off, threw it away. I never put it on again. That's the last time I put my uniform on. And I was still 18 at that time. And they were protesting that they had dropped the bomb on her. We think our own people are protesting. Is that the one you're telling? All right.